What is up, guys? Rick Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today we have a massive amount of brand spankin' new Destiny 2 news coming out of the Bungie weekly update filled with official information, and this is a big one. Essentially, Bungie previewed some of the changes coming to the Sandbox, hitting Destiny 2 with Shadowkeep. Essentially, they're pressing the reset button on a lot of different things, and the game is getting hit with some of the biggest nerfs we've ever seen. It's insane. So, what's going on here? Well, let's begin with the currently ongoing Mars Community Challenge. These are the figures so far after day 2, and as you can see, Escalation Protocol totally done, and the Siva Nanite things totally done as well, and then the Nightfalls still need some grinding, as well as the Total Hive kills. Get in there, do some Nightfalls, because remember, if the community achieves this by the end of the week, by next Tuesday, the Menagerie is going to be offering additional rewards. So if you don't have the absolute Godroll Austringer or Imperial Decree, definitely it's worth participating in this challenge. Moving on from there, there's a little bit of a different Bungie bounty happening on Tuesday, September 10th. Both Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, and the Bungie CEO, Pete Pearsons, are just matching in the Strike playlist, and if you happen to match with them, you will get this exclusive emblem. Pretty darn sweet. Moving on from there, the bigger meteor info. Bungie showcased a preview of what the Crucible screen is going to look like with Shadowkeep, and here it is. As you can see at the very forefront in the center, we have 6v6 control. This, Bungie has said, is the game mode they want new players to kind of step into. They feel like it really gives a good idea about what PvP is like in Destiny 2. Then we're going to have 3v3 elimination that awards glory, and that's replacing the competitive playlist. And then replacing quick play, we have what's called Classic Mix, and that's just a bunch of different 6v6 game modes as well. And it's connection based as well, so no skill-based matchmaking. Then at the very top middle, Crucible Labs, and we have a rotating 4v4 playlist, as well as a rotating 6v6 playlist. Additionally, these 4 maps are being removed from rotation: Dead Cliffs, Legion's Gulch, Retribution, and Solitude, with Bungie citing that they just didn't play well and a lot of players just hated them. In addition to that, some maps are going to be exclusive to game modes. So for example, the map Equinox is now only on Scorched, Mayhem, and Breakthrough, and Firebase Echo is only in Supremacy, Mayhem, and Breakthrough. But we're getting some new maps as well. Remade Widow's Court and Twilight Gap are coming from Destiny 1, as well as this brand new map called Fragment, which they say it's Dreaming City meets Infinite Forest. Moving on from there, heavy ammo sharing is returning to 6v6 modes, so if you loot a heavy ammo chest, you have 7 seconds for your teammates to pick up that heavy ammo as well. Also, Bungie is changing how streaks work, because of course if you get a 5-win streak, you're going to get so much more glory or valor. That's what everyone wants to get, so losing can be pretty devastating. Well, now if you lose, it's only going to reduce your streak by 1, so you go from 5 in a row to 4 in a row, and for glory it's going to reduce it by 2, so a loss isn't quite as devastating and won't throw you off of earning that ranking. And lastly, Bungie does claim that it has improved the competitive matchmaking for that 3v3 glory mode. Okay, now moving on from there, before we get into the massive nerfs, let's talk about some buffs also hitting the Sandbox with Shadowkeep. So, firstly, to the Night Stalker Way of the Pathfinder, the bottom attunement. So for Vanish, Smoke Bomb grants invisibility to allies, so gives 1 stack of Heart of the Pack, newly revamped, to all allies hit. It grants plus 34 to armor, recovery, and agility, and it gives weapon reload speed and handling, so max 3 stacks on that. And lastly, increased invisibility duration from 7 to 8 seconds. Moving on from there, for Provision, killing tethered enemies creates super orbs and increases agility, armor, and recovery for allies. The new perk, the old benefits are actually moved to be part of Mobius Quiver now, and we'll go over that in a sec, but the new perk is damaging enemies with your grenades reduce the cooldown of your smoke bomb 6% per damage tick. Also, making allies invisible gives you grenade energy, 17.5 per ally you make invisible. Moving on from there, for Mobius Quiver, fire super multiple times and deals massive damage to tethered targets. So added the old provision perk to naturally be part of Mobius Quiver. Killing tethered enemies creates super orbs and grants stacks of Heart of the Pack for allies, and expanded the range of Heart of the Pack from 20 to 30 meters. Moving on from there, for the Shadow Shot Super, so this is the top and the bottom attunements, the damage increased from 150 to 250, so it's always going to be a one-shot kill in PvP, and improved tether accuracy near obstacles, so it'll more likely hit its targets, and suppress on hit is more consistent. Moving on from there, continuing with the buffs, we have the Sentinel Code of the Protector. This is the top attunement. So with this, for defensive strike, melee ability that creates an overshield for nearby allies, and it changes all kills while the overshield is active grants melee energy for the player with the shield. So it works for all allies you grant a shield to. This is based upon enemy threat level from 5% for minors to 25% for players and bosses. Now for Rallying Force, melee kills heal nearby allies, heal buffed from 10 health and 10 shields to 10 health and 20 shields, a 50% increase. Now for Ward of Dawn, the alternate super that creates a shield bubble, they increase the ward health versus supers. Most supers will require the whole thing to be dumped on the ward to destroy it, but will usually not kill the players inside. The ward grants weapons of light when passing through it, 35% increased weapon damage for 15 seconds just for passing through it. That's actually going to be pretty huge. You walk through someone's bubble in PvP, you get 15 seconds of a massive damage bonus. Yeah, expect to see bubble more often. And additionally, it grants another orb, 3 now instead of 2, and auto-generated orbs now grant the same amount of super energy as regular super orbs. Previously, the orbs gave less super energy on par with Masterwork orbs. Moving on from there, again more buffs for the Sentinel Code of the Aggressor, bottom tree. The Shield Bash, shoulder charge that disorients nearby enemies, now suppresses the target hit and any enemy within 2 meters, basically have to be right next to them. For the Voidwalker Attunement of Hunger, the bottom one, for the Vortex, Nova Bomb leaves behind a damaging area of effect pool. The initial explosion damage increased by 15% and the lingering damage increased by 15%. That's actually pretty huge. Everyone was using Cataclysm because it did more damage, but getting 2 15% damage increases, maybe check out that bottom tree now. Moving on, for the Dawnblade Attunement of Grace for Well of Radiance, alternate super that creates a healing buff for allies. Now it grants an additional super orb, 3, and just like the bubble, auto-generated orbs now grant the same amount of super energy as regular orbs. They used to be coded as Masterworks. Okay, now let's move on to those nerfs. So for the Night Stalker Way of the Trapper, the top tree for Shadow Shot, damage sharing for the Night Stalker player specifically reduced from 100% to 50%. Now all allied players have 50% damage sharing on tether. The Night Stalker Way of the Wraith middle tree for Flawless Execution, True Sight will now last 3 seconds down from 9. Big change there. For Shattering Strike, after performing a flawless execution, your melee attacks have a longer lunge range and weaken enemies. They say a warning, when they reduced True Sight, it also reduced this down to 3 seconds, and they're going to address it in a patch just after Shadowkeep, but just keep that in mind. Moving on from there, instant reloading. If you play PvE, things are about to change. So, anything that instantly reloads your gun is gone from the game. So when you stood in a Lunafaction well or a Titan Rally barricade and you could shoot pretty much indefinitely, that is going. So now, for the Titan Rally barricade, this ability now provides a large increase to reload speed for the duration of the effect. This ability no longer automatically reloads your weapons from reserves. So you're not just going to have numbers appear in your magazine, you will reload like very fast, but you'll still have to do a base reload animation. And the same thing is for the Well of Radiance with Lunafaction. So stuff like the Mountaintop, I mean, is the Mountaintop good because it does lots of damage? Well, obviously yes, but is it more good because you can stand inside a well and you can skip that animation for the reload after every single shot? You just get to shoot, 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 shoot. So yeah, things are going to change in the PvE meta just from that for sure. Moving on from there, super energy regeneration. This is also going down massively. So now when you pick up a super orb, it gives you 7.143% of your super back. That's a 50% reduction from what it is right now. Masterwork orbs, 50% reduction as well, down to 2.5%. Kills are being nerfed as well, a 25% reduction across the board, so minor 0.6. You can see the numbers here, but again, that's 25% of what they are, or 25% less of what they are right now. And assists have also received a 25% reduction to the super you get as well. Now, Bungie's explanation for this is, with Armor 2.0, the ability to spec into your super is going to be a pretty big thing, as well as the fact that you can now get intellect on your armor as a stat, which is going to increase your super regeneration overall. So if supers were allowed to remain as they are right now, they would get like ridiculous and trivialize a lot of the activities where you can just chain supers constantly. So that's their explanation for those nerfs. But another massive nerf, damage multipliers. We did talk about this in one of Luke Smith's director's updates, or director's cuts I should say, but they went into more of the specific damage numbers in how these are getting nerfed. Essentially, their explanation is that you could go to a 3 times damage bonus and beyond by combining all these perks and how they would stack multiplicatively, and that's kind of being removed. And now with Shadowkeep, you can apply 1 buff to your overall character. So if you're in Well of Radiance, it's just Well of Radiance. You can't combine Well of Radiance with Weapons of Light or anything like that. And 1 debuff as well. So Well of Radiance, that works. Plus, a melting point or a shadow shot on the enemy, that'll stack. And then you get all the individual weapon perks like Rampage and Kill Clip. That'll stack too. That's all fine. But that's pretty much it. Aside from some specific niche exotic stuff, that's it. Also, the buffs and nerfs themselves are being reduced. So for Frontal Assault, bonus damage is now plus 20%, previously 25%. Sun Warrior is down from 25 to 20% as well. Well of Radiance, previously 35%, now it's 25%. Weapons of Light, it says it was previously 25 up to 35. I think that's from D1. It didn't exist, so there the numbers are. But for debuffs as well, so Shadow Shot. Incoming PvE damage is now 30%, previously 35%, and incoming PvP damage was 55 down to 50%, but this effect no longer excludes power weapons. So right now, if you shoot an enemy that's affected by Shadow Shot with a rocket launcher, it does no additional damage. With Shadowkeep, it will. And so that could potentially totally offset these nerfs because that's such a big advantage, but I digress. Let's move on here. Tractor Cannon. This is a big one. Incoming PvE damage is now plus 30% for all elements. So it was 50% for void stuff, and that's why things like the Swarm or the Raven grenade launcher are the best PvE damage output weapons in the game right now. Removing that advantage for void weapons is going to open up a lot of different things in the meta. Suddenly, we're looking at solar weapons, arc weapons, and it's going to shake things up pretty dramatically. In addition to that, the PvP damage is now 50% for all elements instead of 35 for all and then 50 for void. So kind of got a buff in PvP actually, but moving on from there, Hammer Strike. Incoming PvE damage is now 30%, previously 50%. Massive nerf. Duration increased from 6 seconds to 10 seconds in PvE though, so that'll offset it somewhat. Shattering Strike. Incoming PvE damage is now 30%, previously 50%, and duration increased from 6 to 10 seconds. And moving on from there, we have reduced super damage resistance. This is one of the most complained about things, especially regarding PvP, where it's basically impossible to kill an enemy super. It removes this skill gap and makes it so you just have a free kill button in a lot of players' minds. Well, Bungie is addressing this, and firstly, the super damage resistance is removed from Masterwork armor, and inherent super damage resistance lowered by category, and they break it down below. So, on the low end, we have Nova Warp, Thunder Crash, Blade Barrage, Nova Bomb, and Well of Radiance going from 54 down to 49%. For the medium, we have Hammer of Soul and Daybreak. This is going from 56% to 51%. On the high end, Fist of Havoc, Burning Maul, Sentinel Shield, Arc Staff, Arc Lightning, and Shadow Shot, 60% down to 53%, and some unchanged ones. We have Spectral Blades, 52%/54%, and then Golden Gun gives you no protection, and Chaos Reach gives you 40%. Now, just before we're done with buffs and nerfs, at the very end of the update, it was teased that next week we're going to learn about how weapons are changing in the sandbox and some previews there. The Sunshot exotic hand cannon is going up to 12 rounds in the magazine from 8, and the Graviton Lance is getting a 30% damage increase in PvE. So, basically take the PvE meta and throw it in the trash. We're going to have to reassess all these weapons out there. Are these DPS weapons only good because of the instant reload, right? Will things like the Izanagi's Burden that always has to reload become so much better? Not to mention how big of a part the Tractor Cannon Void buff is to the meta. Like, it's just going to be insane. Not to mention how things are changing for PvP and other parts of the game now that your super is regenerating less and you have less resilience. Like, just so much stuff. But we're not done quite yet. Bungie actually revealed a bunch of the different sets of armor coming with Shadowkeep and the Season of the Undying. So let's take a look at these. Firstly, we have the Dreambane armor set. This is acquired from activities on the moon. Then we have the Garden of Salvation raid armor set. This is acquired from the brand new Shadowkeep raid. Of course, this was a big controversy because this is a base reskin of the Eververse gear from Curse of Osiris. It was a big kerfuffle, but honestly, looking at it now and looking at the glowing appendages and stuff, it looks pretty different. It still looks pretty darn cool to me. I'm much more concerned about the fact that I hope they put raid exclusive intrinsic perks and stuff on the weapons and the armor. That's my hill I'm dying on, basically. But moving on from there, we have the substitutional armor set. This is acquired from seasonal activities, free seasonal rank rewards, and premium seasonal ranks. So there they are right here. Moving on from there, we have the Phenotype Plasticity Universal Ornament set, and this is acquired from premium seasonal rank rewards. So this set of armor that we did see that everyone loves, like this is like the coolest set of armor out there. This is ornaments to another set of armor, or potentially any piece of armor out there because of Armor 2.0 and the whole transmogrification thing. Moving on from there, we have the Iron Will armor set, and this is the new set for Iron Banner, starting with Shadowkeep and continuing on through that season. And lastly, we have the Empyrean Cartographer Universal Ornament set, and this is from the Eververse store. That honestly looks pretty sweet as well. Okay, moving on from there, one more thing. Speaking of armor, this massive list is all of the different things that are going to be dropping Armor 2.0. So when Shadowkeep hits, if you want an Armor 2.0 version of the Leviathan armor, of the European Dead Zone armor, you can go out and re-earn that, and it will be dropping in the Armor 2.0 version. So that's important to know, and now you guys know it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, found it informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.